Welcome tonight to Trauma and Emotional Healing. It's week 9, and we're going to be talking about magical emotional energy to create change in your body and your mind.
Yep, so before we move on, we have a few new people, so I'm going to go over this again just momentarily as we align to ourself. It's just, we're trying to heal trauma and our emotions at this time, and people who are in a dysregulated state in a very busy world, we tend to get very scattered in our energy. And so our purpose in saying I am aligning with 3 times and we'll ring a bell, this is to bring us back to self, to align to self so that we are fully present in our body and we can be fully present in the experience. So I'll go ahead and ding the bell.
I am aligning with, and then say your name. I am aligning with, I am aligning with.
And a nice, beautiful, deep breath, coming back to our bodies and ready to start magical emotions. So what is magic? Magic is a common reference to magic is a use of invisible forces to influence events, affect change in material conditions, or present the illusion of change. In today's world, we know that quantum law states that all possibilities exist in the field of complete potentials. But we are only able to bring any of the possibilities out of energy into matter, into this 3D world through our clear intentions and our emotional state of being. This is the basis of all things related to quantum law. It takes conscious attention, elevated emotion, and moving the frequency dial in alignment for that which we desire. So that's magic.
Now there's 4 fundamental laws of magic. Our physical world is not only a component of reality, but there's other realities going on simultaneously. Our human willpower is a force capable of being trained. And with discipline and concentrated effort, you can produce some supernormal effects, even magical effects. This willpower is directed by our imagination, which is located in our frontal cortex. The universe is not by chance, but a system of order. Once understood, it can be used for good or bad. And we want to make it be used for creating health and strength in our bodies and purpose in our minds.
That's right. So the energy of magic. Magic is actually, the basis of magic is a manipulation of energy that already exists. Magicians don't pull energy or create energy. None of us do that. Energy already exists, but it's a manipulation of that energy to create the matter that we are looking for, to create the end result. Magic comes from what's already inside us, the energy that is already inside us. It is a part of us. However, the key element here is that we cannot weave together a spell or create change in anything that we do not already believe in. Learning and applying the laws of the universe, which is elevated state of being, our focused intention, and visualization are all key elements in applying the laws of the universe. And this is the ultimate relationship with creating.
Now, the power of our beliefs, it takes learning information or having opposing evidence that doesn't change our beliefs. We need to have faith that what we're doing is correct. If there is a discrepancy between what you want and what you believe, your beliefs will actually win. And that's why it's important to get your beliefs set on what you truly want. To overcome this, you must be aware of your limited beliefs and your patterns of behavior.
That's right. We're going to talk about our patterns of behavior throughout this class because Once we recognize how we show up in the world and our default mode under a trauma response, that's really from a maladaptive stress response, over time we create specific patterns. Once we identify those patterns, we can make the changes that are necessary. So magic is the intention for creation or transformation, which takes these following elements: aligning the body and mind. The body is the emotional state, the mind is the mental state. These two have to be in alignment. It has to be coherent energy. When we think about a radio dial, this radio dial, if one of them is on an AM station and one of them is on an FM station, it's just going to be static. And that's how we're sending messages out into the universe. When those are not aligned, we're not getting a clear signal. Our focused intentions, we're going to talk about how we get very distracted very easy. Even though it's something that's important to us, there is a lot of eye candy in this world, and technology is only enhancing that distraction mode, and multitasking between different settings on our phone and multitasking with different experiences in our outer world. It really scatters our attention and we lose the focus, and we lose the ability to have focus over time as well, because again, that's another maladaptive response. Active imagination. Our imagination and our intuition comes from the same part of the brain. So, and I talk about this a lot with my clients during regressions. In the creative state and accessing the higher realms is also in the same state as imagination, and our dream state as well. An elevated emotional state. When we want to create something, we have to adjust our emotional our emotional dial, different from the dial that we are in now, so that we can align with that. It takes these elements that are fundamental to create the change that we're looking for.
Now, when you're working through trauma, healing from the trauma can be very painful. In fact, it brings up the trauma, and it's difficult. But making the changes has great rewards, because once you release that trauma, it shouldn't bother you again unless you go back into it. To begin the healing process, you must recognize that trauma exists in the body and the brain, and it's in our emotional body. And it can settle into organs or glands or systems and cause problems. By understanding how and why the trauma exists, you can develop a way to let it go. Healing is possible, but you must retrain the brain to respond differently.
Yeah, because as we know, our brain's sole purpose is to keep us safe. And in that protection state, we create these patterns of maladaptivity. So it takes retraining the brain to make the changes. But attempting change, we all know it's really hard. We all want to do things that are different, and we're all here for a desire for change. Now, the focus of this class and this 12-week training is healing trauma and emotions. That's the change we're trying to bring about in all of us, including the two of us. Having a set point of where we were, and hopefully over these 12 weeks, using the tools of transformation and the different information, we can start inciting change in our life. Now, on average, studies have indicated that about 40% of people in any given year will attempt some level of personal improvement. This may be health or relationships or finances, to get their body in better shape, nutrition. There's some level of personal improvement. Now, I personally am surprised that it's only 40%, but it's true. A lot of people just kind of skate by in their life. But the two elements that they use is motivation and an information. Now, as an example, how many of you have attended like a 3-day workshop or a training somewhere, or like something like a Tony Robbins event? There's a lot of self-help development in the self-help genre, and they use music because music moves energy. They use a lot of words and empowerment, and they use different visual aids, all to amplify your emotional state. And if you're like me, you maybe have taken a lot of notes during those kind of things, because you want to have the changes, and so you think the information is going to be the key element, and you get motivated because you see other people, you're building on each other's energy, and they tell you possibilities, they give you assignments, and you feel like you're inciting change. But how many of you have attended those type of things, or even a training like this, taken some notes and never looked at it again, or maybe even flip through the pages once or twice and it ends up in a drawer, and maybe years or months or years later you pull it out and kind of glance at that and really notice you didn't make a whole lot of the changes that were possible? Well, that's okay. It's just knowing that we tend to fail. In fact, 92% of people will fail with this. And why is that? Because information is endless. We can go on the internet now and we can find any information on any topic in the world. You can imagine it, it's already on the web. So information is not the only key thing to do, but we have patterns of beliefs that stop us from using what we know, and our motivation shrinks over a couple of days. We get super excited and then we fall back into an emotional set point. We all have a thermostat of our emotional level, and whether you consider yourself a joyful person, a moody person, a mellow person, whatever your set point is, even under the best terms and under the worst terms, over time, usually in a couple of days, we migrate back to our emotional set point unless we have some intentions. And this goes again into the patterns of behavior that we'll talk about.
Now, when you're doing the same things all the time, you're using the same neural network, and all your neurons are firing and refiring and resetting your same viewpoint. So you have to change by doing a different application. And we're giving you applications to change your emotions and your set point. So our creative center is in the frontal lobe of our brain. This center is for learning, and it controls our behavior. You know, your emotions, your behavior, and your patterns create your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. So if you don't like your personal reality, you have to change something that makes your personality. So we have to change our behavior, our decision making. We have to focus our concentration on shifting the energy and our emotional reactions that are common to us. We need to make them uncommon and make them a better reaction. So transformation from trauma begins with making the decision to change our response to the inner and outer environment that's been causing the problem.
Yeah, so obviously their inner environment is our emotions, and our thought process, our outer environment is how we get reacted to this. But we know that forcing the brain to change doesn't bring success. You can't think your way out of being healed. And although every single person at some point will attempt to think your way out of trauma, it's when we have an anxiety attack, we try to think our way out of it. If we have a fear response, we try to think our way out of it. And it's because we're trying to find a solution. We don't like the way we feel, and in order to change that, we go back to what we know. However, everything that we make a decision based upon, the only thing that we can access is anything from our history. And so when we're looking for ways to fix things, we only have a file cabinet of things that have happened in our past. And having awareness of trauma doesn't fix it either. Just because we know that we have trauma doesn't mean that we can fix it and claim it as fixed. The brain response is a conditioned response, and it's a conditioned response over time. It will recondition in the synaptic connections, it will hardwire those over time if it's a very intense event. It imprints, it takes a snapshot of that experience and you will remember it. Remember, our brains are time travelers, and it will condition that response based upon the intensity. Healing is training our body and mind to work differently. It's bypassed our critical thinking, and now we need to reintegrate our brain into behaving in a way that we can make critical decisions. You can't make critical decisions in that stress response because because science says it actually makes your brain worse. So trauma changes us. It's true. We're different people because of trauma, but healing changes us too. And in the journey of healing, we discover more about who we are, and we discover new tools and new behaviors, and we learn self under the trauma response and the healing response. We learn more about ourselves than under any other category in our life experience. So as hard as it is to have a trauma experience and to have overcome trauma, the ability to walk that path and that journey of self-discovery is beautiful and amazing for the spiritual journey. So we must transform our relationship with self in order to do so.
So common blocks to change. The average person loses attention quickly, about 3 to 7 minutes. 3 minutes if you've been watching a lot of videos. So even if it really matters, we need to pay attention and get our minds set to pay attention longer. We are overstimulated by our outer world with too many distractions. Things can make us shift, and it takes 15 minutes on average to get back to doing what you were focused on.
Yes.
So, you know, in my job, I have them coming in and asking questions. I had to tell everybody, look, while I'm doing an intuitive reading, till I'm done, I am not to be bothered. And so that way I can focus and not get distracted and have to start all over again. And so emotions dictate our state of being. And if you get frustrated, it's not a good place to be to learn or teach others. So emotions dictate our state of being, and our brain is wired to protect ourselves. So if we feel like we're being attacked, we go into a protective mode and we can't learn anything. We go into fight or flight. So we've got to get relaxed and know that we need to focus our attention on something different. Focus is on what we don't want most of the time because we're being distracted. So change is very unfamiliar to us, and we need to learn the steps of making changes in order to get rid of some of the blockages and get rid of the negative emotions.
Yes, and I'd like to add, we focus on what we don't want because it's a protection mechanism. We try to calculate any possible outcome that we could have. And so we tend to put our attention more on what we don't want than what we do want. Dr. Joe Dispenza said this quote once that I love this quote. And it says, stop romancing a life you don't even want. And the reason we all, you know, when we're romancing something, we focus on it, we put our attention on it, we wake up in the morning, the first thought is the romance and the love of our life, and it's our very last thought at the end of the day, and multiple times throughout the day. That's exactly what we do when we have a trauma response or some kind of unresolved experience in our past, where we have emotional entanglement. It consumes an enormous amount of our thoughts. But moving forward into procrastination. When there's fear or any level of uncertainty in moving forward, we create outside drama. This incites us to fix or rescue, and it's what we call artificial priority. And even if you're trying to, like even creating these trainings, there's times where we're in a little bit of a stall, and then all of a sudden there's a whole lot of outside drama. And if you start paying attention to how that shows up for your world, it will blow your mind how often artificial priority will show up. And this validates the reason why we do create this artificial drama is because it validates in our subconscious brain that we're still accomplishing things and we're still doing good things, even if it isn't what we set our goal for. And having a goal and moving forward in the goal, you will have more opportunity of artificial drama that will show up in ways that has never shown up before. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But in order to get Past this procrastination stage, when you're in creation mode, is to get very, very clear about the direction you're going. When you lack clarity, you tend to procrastinate, and again, that subconscious brain will create this artificial priority.
Now, let's talk a little bit about energy drains. Too much social media actually sucks out our energy, and we need to stop doing it because it can put us into jealousy. It can put us into, oh, their life's better than mine, and mine's not very good. And it makes us feel like we can't change. So what we need is to drop the social media. Now, poor nutrition affects our brain, our nervous system. You know, when we're eating too much sugar, it actually makes our immune system not work as good. When we're in fear or anxiety, we can't heal because the emotions are taking all of our energy and we can't move forward. So holding on to the past is another problem. We can't go into the past because that's where our energy goes. Whatever you focus on, your energy follows. And so we need to focus on the present moment. We need to, waiting for the right time never happens. And when we wait for the right time, the project never begins. And what we need to do is change that from waiting to doing in the now. And being around negative people makes us feel negative and can bring our energy down also. So keep good, positive people around you. Constantly chasing your dreams doesn't actually make the dreams happen. We need to have faith, and we need to believe our dreams are going to come true. And we need to follow that up with doing the things necessary to bring those dreams about.
That's right. Okay, so shifting our behavior and shifting our patterns. Obviously, in any kind of change that we want to make in our world, there's going to be certain things that we need to implement or start doing, or at least increase the activity of. And there's going to be things we need to stop doing or at least limit. So we need to start in the doing section, we need to finish tasks. When we have unfinished tasks, it's very draining of our energy field. One of the techniques that we really encourage when somebody feels fatigue a lot and they feel very scattered in their brain and a lot of brain fog is we'll ask, how many tasks do you have that you've been procrastinating about? What things do you have unfinished that is piling on upon each other? And one of the greatest ways to build momentum in making change is to accomplish tasks. You know the saying that if you want something done, go to the busiest person you know, because momentum of energy is already in progress. The process is happening, and you're going to get way more accomplishment than somebody who's on the couch. And you just say, hey, can you take care of this one task for me? The lollygag and try and whatever, eventually get around to it. But when you find somebody in motion, if you're already in motion, that's the law of physics. When it's already in motion, it stays in motion. Implement a routine. Our brains respond really well to routine, almost to a default if we're in unhealthy behaviors. But when we implement a healthy routine, such as reading scriptures first thing in the morning, or at least some spiritual work, or we listen to high quality music, or we get inspired by a message when we're listening to a podcast, or a prayer, or meditation, any of those things that can set your emotional set point for success, or at least a calm state first thing in the day, implementing a green drink and some exercise, some hydration, any of those things that will help support our body, we're going to move. Any behavior of progress is going to improve all levels of our life. Put desires in writing. Again, we get very distracted in our outer world, even if something we want really, really bad. Say, for instance, you're having a weight issue and you would like to lose 50 pounds, and you see the holidays coming and you know the desserts and the candy is going to increase. But you have, if you don't have it in writing, that next plate of cookies that's going to show up, there's going to be very little that's going to keep you from reaching for another cookie. So if you have it in writing and you have it in front of you, it's a focal point to keep your attention in the direction that you would like. And you need to prime your thoughts and your emotions with declarations. Now, we're going to talk about declarations more next week. As far as making change, declarations are I am statements or affirmations, and it's in the present moment. We proclaim or we call out what we desire and we draw it to us. Now, to stop doing or to limit at least is multitasking. Anybody who is a parent, and especially if you have an outside a job outside of the home, or you have multiple things that you have to handle in a day, young moms especially, we're multitasking all day long, and we think that we're accomplishing good things, that we're able to handle many things at once. But statistically they say you're not fully present, and your brain can only put attention on one thing at a time. So our kids are saying mom many times, dinner's burning, the phone's ringing, the dog needs to be let out. All of those things tends to dysregulate the nervous system. So focusing on one thing at a time, and that includes hopping between different apps on your phone. How many people have picked up and they'll look on one social media app, they'll scroll it for a minute, switch over to the next social media app, scroll, and we just keep bypassing this relaxed state, and we're overtaxing our nervous system. So choosing one activity and putting your attention on one activity is going to keep you in a more regulated state. Holding on to old hurts, obviously we've talked about forgiveness and the power of forgiveness throughout this training. And forgiveness, again, is not giving person permission or telling the world that they're okay, that the actions that they had are okay. Of course they're not okay, but we are removing the emotional charge from the experience by letting go. We're not forgiving and forgetting, we're just letting ourselves be very clear that no longer, when we have a negative experience, we've already given an enormous amount of our vital energy to that experience in the healing phase anyway. Why would we want to add more to that by having this brain loop all the time, controlling everything in our life because we haven't let it go? Having unhealthy boundaries. Now we're going to talk about unhealthy boundaries again in just a moment, but when we have unhealthy boundaries, our energy field gets hit. Especially if you have a lot of empathic energy, you get hit from other people's energy, and you start absorbing other people's energy, and it's not even yours. And we start saying yes to things that we don't want. And this, we get more attention on making sure everybody else is okay rather than making sure that we're okay. And it puts us again in a very dysregulated state. And then the final thing that we really encourage you to stop doing is stop telling your wounded history to others. It's so interesting when you have an awareness of how we show up in the world and the things that we say. Just in this week alone, I've just been paying attention. I've had a lot of awareness. My ears have been perked to the stories people are telling. And I go to the chiropractor, at the grocery store, at the bank, and talking on the phone, and the stories that come in, the wounded stories that are being told, it's amazing how much we tell our wounds and we bring it up. So what that is doing energetically is it's like you're going back to the wound, you're picking up all of the baggage and all the pain from that, and you bring it forward and you place that luggage right in front of you, and it's blocking you from progressing. So we've got to, if you're going to tell a story, make sure you're telling a good one.
Now, it's interesting, our perceptions about our beliefs is very important.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this
And we need to have the perception that we can change, because that's when the magic happens. So to upgrade our beliefs, we need to identify what they are and write them down. Writing them down helps because as you're writing, it uses different parts of the brain to recreate things and start that frontal lobe going and creating possibilities. So when we're aware of a belief, look for the source to that belief. We don't see the belief, we see the story or event that triggered the belief. So observe the belief and start changing that belief if it's not serving you. Observe the bigger picture. Take an eagle's view of it from above, from the sides, from below. What other interpretations or perceptions could be true about what actually happened. Was it really actually something awful, or did our brain just perceive it as being awful? Condition your brain to give a different meaning to the event. Upgrade your story from a higher perspective.
That's right. And I apologize that I look a little distracting. I'm trying to bring up the iPad for when we have the Q&A. So, okay, so deliberate attention. When we have deliberate attention on our direction that we're going, a few things that we need to address. The first one is, again, to catch that artificial drama when it shows up. Now, it's really fascinating. We have to notice patterns of behavior. What time of day did those show up? Was it right before you were starting to sit down at the computer and go through some emails, or before you were starting to create something, or before you were going to go clean out the garage? Whatever experience you want to improve upon, it's important that you build up your energy before it hits. So ways that you can do that, again, is declarations, play some music, kind of bounce a little bit. Just move energy up in an elevated state so that you have a surplus of energy to engage in this new experience. So when not only do we catch it, but we also address the artificial drama prior to focus time. Now, I give an example. When I was when I was writing my book, and I would be very clear. I'd wake up first thing in the morning, and I would say, okay, from 9 to 11, I'm going to work, and I'm not going to allow my phone, I'm not going to answer the door, I'm not going to handle any other experiences. That's my crunch time. That's the time I'm going to be focused on the work, and nothing's going to distract me. It was unbelievable how many times within about 5 or 6 minutes of me sitting down, one of my kids, they are hungry, or one of my kids has a question with homework, or one of my kids has something that they need my attention for. They didn't need my attention 25 minutes ago. They just need my attention because they can feel that my energy is shifted away from them. Even if they wouldn't consciously realize that, there is a subconscious recognition. Whoa, mom's no longer available. We have to go address this. So the way that I would handle that is I decided, because it happened so many times, and as a mom, when I have this artificial drama, the ways that it would happen is I would sit down to work, and the kids would need me. So what I did first is I just kind of checked in with all of my kids, poked my head in their room. Hey, do you need anything? You hungry? Everything good in your world? Are you fed? Any homework questions that you need addressed? Nope, I'm good. Nope, I'm good. Nope, I'm good. Great. Okay, now I'm going to go work. That little shift is amazing. So when you notice an artificial priority that shows up, children happen to be one in my world, but it's amazing. I work from home a lot. And so when I have clients that come to my house, or I do computer work at home, I think I'm going to work on it, but all of a sudden I need to put in the laundry, or all of a sudden I need to start dinner, or all of a sudden I need to start the dishwasher, or walk the dog, or go get the mail, or go through the mail, or any of those things. Those are artificial priorities that really weren't important about 15 minutes earlier. So catch that artificial drama. These are one of the biggest steps you can do as you are implementing change in your world. And it's the same thing if you're wanting to go to the gym and you plan on going to the gym, and all of a sudden you get a phone call out of nowhere, or you get a flat tire. That's artificial drama that there's some level of resistance. So quickly dial in on what you desire, and then focus on the outcome effects. When you put your attention on the outcome that you're looking for, you're going to be moving yourself in forward movement. Be deliberate in your intentions, and then once you know what you want to do, break it up into small sections so that they're digestible and doable.
Very nice. Now, the technique for emotional release, one of the many techniques, is a walk and talk. Now, I would teach this to people about making access to the Ascended Masters. I would have them walk up a hill or climb upstairs for 15 minutes and ask their questions. Now, when you're trying to release emotional trauma, you voice everything going on in your world as you're walking, and you get it out while exerting energy. And this actually pulls some of that out of your body. And then when you get stopped on top of where you're going, you take a cleansing breath and physically remove the energy residue from your body. How do you do that? You consciously ask it to leave your body and replace it with a higher emotion, love, consciousness, or compassion, joy, happiness, those kind of things. So when you take that cleansing breath, release the trauma and bring in joy, bring in happiness, bring in something different that will change those neural synapses. And you return walking back while proclaiming out loud all the benefits and blessings you have in your life. Gratitude helps bring energy in that shifts your neural synapses to creating more positivity, more happiness, more joy, more gratitude, especially when you're proclaiming the benefits and blessings you have. And it builds up your energy.
That's right. And we've shared about the walk and talk before, but it's a very doable one and it's very, very effective. So if you haven't implemented this, we highly recommend. And it can be anywhere. And it doesn't even have to be up a hill, but maybe you could walk with more intensity. We tend to have more intensity when there's a lot of emotion that needs to be out of the body. So it's a powerful one. And to remove the residue, you can just wipe it off of your body as like an act of like, okay, I'm letting it go and I'm moving forward. Okay, so energy depleting patterns are what we're going to talk about tonight. So we all have patterns of behavior in how we respond to our world. Trauma incites specific pattern behaviors as a conditioned response, but they drain our vital energy. Now, digestion takes energy, a lot of energy. That's why when we're in a trauma response, our bodies flushes out our digestive system because our body's like, now's not a time to digest food. You need to run, fight, or hide. Creating a baby takes an enormous amount of energy. That's why women tend to be very, very fatigued in the early parts of their pregnancy, because it takes a lot of energy to create life, and it also takes a lot of energy to change life. Healing takes energy. It's not a passive experience. It's active engagement, or it's not a wait and see. We're engaged through conscious intention. Knowing our patterns helps us to see when we are in a dysregulated state, when we're compromising ourselves in this conditioned response. And it can give us the opportunity to catch it and return to a healthier response. Healing requires changing our patterns. So we're going to go over a few patterns. So notice if any of these apply to you. Let's go.
So the helper or the servant. Others' needs are more important than what our needs are when we're a helper or a servant. So we give to others what we need for ourselves, and we're doing things for them. Now, we are a part of the whole, so don't get me wrong here. It's good to do things for others, but you need to do your self-care first and have a time where you can do it. Because if you're not helping yourself, it's more difficult to help others because you don't have the energy, because you're trapped in your emotional crap. And so our value isn't defined by what we do for others, but our value is defined by what we do for ourselves in helping ourselves be stronger and more energetic, more positive people. So depleting our energy from overgiving is a big problem in the world right now. We have unhealthy boundaries for ourselves and for others.
That's right. And the overachiever energy tends to have value that is defined by their accomplishments in their outer world. It's the gold star at the end of the day that shows that they have a level of value. They tend to be caught up in the 3D world of material success and tends to lack spiritual growth. When we're focused on the 3D world in that go-getter, dog-eat-dog world, where money or success or recognition or title tend to supersede our divine connection. Relationships tend to take the back seat in the overachiever because when a relationship is already established, it gets moved to the back burner so that you can focus on the next thing to accomplish. And the overarching drive in the overachiever is, I am not enough. It's a compensation for feeling lack or sense of lack of value. So they have to show that they have value through their accomplishments, and they need to be seen as successful.
So the perfectionist focuses on multiple details, but you have this fear of doing it wrong or being unprepared. And so you're constantly looking at what you're doing and trying to be as perfect as you can. And worthiness is based on doing it perfectly rather than just doing it right. There's a high need for safety, and you only feel safe when you got it right or perfect. That's the perfectionist. Unable to be in the present moment because you're always worried about the future possibilities.
And you're worried, and then one of the other elements to the perfectionist is you're worried about being judged. And so we tend to be more judgmental of ourselves, and that fear of doing it right or getting it wrong tends to really scatter the energy. So now the next pattern of behavior is the I can say hard words. Anxiety driven. Anxiety driven is focused on the what ifs. The brain is mapping out all possibilities, even ones that don't even come in alignment with anything that could actually happen. It's depleting the energy by always trying to mentally plan details. Again, we know the brain is very dysregulated under these terms, and we don't find healthy solutions. We go to the worst case scenario under the anxiety driven. We have to protect ourselves from the worst case scenario, and that's where we're putting primary attention. We're trying to think our way to safety because the brain always is here to keep us safe, but it gets worse under these conditions. And as we've said, you can't think your way to safety. You can't think your way to a solution. We need to feel safe. That's the feeling that we have. And so if we cover all of our bases, the likelihood of feeling safe is increased in our own self-soothing behaviors. We value security in the anxiety-driven, and there is a fear of taking risks because you feel like your plate's already full, and taking any other risks can topple the apple cart. So there is a little hesitancy on taking unnecessary risks or even necessary risks because even if your life is challenging, it's challenging to a degree that you lived with it yesterday, so you probably can live with it tomorrow, and so you tend to stay in that safety mode. And the anxiety-driven individual tends to suffer from digestive issues. There's a lot of worry, and the worry is in that third chakra, so the digestive system takes a hit.
Oh, and anxiety causes you not to move forward because you're afraid to have anything go wrong. And so you're always in this panic mode or anxiety state. Okay, the controller. Now the controller carries the burden of doing it all. The burden of doing it all, that even sounds heavy. So we're here to help one another, but we've got to learn not to try to control everything. Now we can control ourselves, but controlling others, that's a dream. So you don't want to think you can control others. You teach others correct principles, and then you just expect them to follow that. Now, the environment, trying to control your environment is another thing you can't always do because there's lots of shifts and changes going on in our environment. The world is only safe if I am in control. That's how the controller thinks. So they have to control everything and everybody in their lives. You soothe yourself by believing you are protecting others, but in reality, you're trying to control others. And they don't like it. You want life to be predictable, but it tends to experience and cause nerve pain. So when you're controlling others, trying to control your environment, it puts a lot of tension on your nervous system and can cause nerve damage.
Yeah, I'm laughing because
That's her.
We know that is me.
But we love her.
But I'm trying to keep everybody safe. So, and nerve pain. The reason why we have nerve pain in the controller state is because we get very constricted. Our energy gets constricted, and we try to just keep everything under control. And even hearing that word, it's almost laughable, but it's painful too, as we get very constricted, and it causes that nerve pain.
I'm glad we're laughing about it.
He's an overachiever.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, elements that affect success. Okay, so stress. We know that stress is obviously the hardest thing that we have to deal with. The average adult stress response is 90 times a day. On average, an adult has a stress response approximately 6 to 7 hours a day. Oh, that's not very good on the body, and it puts us in that sympathetic dominance rather than the parasympathetic state. Fatigue, big one. We've talked about sleep so many times throughout these trainings because we're overscheduled. We give very little time for recovery, and it's just we take a quick little cat nap, if that, and we tend to survive on less. But sleep helps reset the body. So fatigue, if you're tired, sleep. If you're overscheduled, pull some things off and focus on the self-care. Control your cravings. When we have cravings, it's because there is an unmet need. So whether it's sugar, whether it's media, whether it's carbohydrates, whatever it is you're craving, know that there's going to be something that set the tone prior to that. And sometimes that unmet need is because you're bored. There's boredom. Even if there's a lot of stuff to do, you are so used to processing at a high-end rate that when nothing's going on, you feel like you have to hurry up and soothe something because you've been so programmed in this in this high stress response. And ultimately, we have to support our health. A physical body has to be strong as we move forward, and anything that we can do to support our health, especially in this time of the world, we have to focus on. So build the nutrition, have the live food so that our body feels life. We can't fuel our body at the same place that we fuel our car. We need life in our body. We encourage supplements, and not necessarily a whole bunch of supplements, but supplements because the soil is depleted. Organic is still not completely organic. We're still getting a lot of pesticides. So anything to support detoxing the body and having exercise. Energy in motion is what we have. Our energy is always in motion. And so when we have physical exercise, we move those emotions out of the body. And obviously hydration. Now another thing to add with the hydration is electrolytes. When you're in a healing phase, any level of healing phase, it takes electrolytes of the body to help have that healing. So we encourage when your hydration, add some electrolytes with that as well, or even at least a little bit of sea salt. And then self-care ritual. I've been on my soapbox before and I'll do it again. We are not self-care society. This world is not a self-care society. We're self-recovery society. We have breakdown and then we are out of obligation to self. We give ourselves a massage or we give ourselves a day off or whatever you use as your self-recovery. Have awareness of the body responses and take care of the body's needs before you do the extra push.
Now, the ninth chakra is our emotional body. This is our connection to the wisdom of our ancestors, soul gifts, and abilities carried over from previous lifetimes. Now, sometimes we have trauma carried over from previous lifetimes, and we need to focus on getting rid of that also out of our emotional body. It is the access to our higher purpose is in the emotional body. And our emotional set point and archetypal patterns that play an important role in shaping our destiny are a part of the emotional body. The sacred truth of the emotional body is love is the divine reality. And we need to bring the divine back into our lives.
That's right. So our ninth chakra, when there's an emotional deficiency in the ninth chakra, by the way, it's located near the eighth chakra, about pretty close to the 8th chakra, approximately 14 inches above the head. These emotions are blocked from having a natural flow. This is our emotional body, and when we have blocked because of unresolved issues, that we have constricted emotions or any of those kind of things, we don't ever want a bad thing to happen again, so we prepare for it always. We block the natural flow, and there may be stagnation or depleted energy when we have these different patterns that we talked about that deplete our energy. There's often a deep-seated level of fear, anger, grief. Those are the three that are the lowest density of the emotional state. It's the lowest vibration, and it's the heaviest density. It's the heaviest emotions. So there's some level of those that are very common. Now, all of these can over time lead to physical pain or chronic pain. And not using your gifts that you were born with. All of us came to this life experience to have gifts that we use, and we're in service to others, because that's one of our roles, to be in service to others. If we're not using our gifts and they're just sitting somewhere in the field, we're actually dampening our energy. Now, to balance our 9th chakra, we need to observe our desire to experience God in all things. Recognize God exists in all things, and we place our attention in the field of energy. It helps enhance that field. See how your emotional state is contributing to your state of being. All of us showed up in this, where we are today, because of some contribution we had emotionally or mentally. We have to take ownership of how we showed up so that we can stop doing those things that are contributing to a negative state of being. And we have an opportunity. One of the things that you can do is re-experience the blocked emotional experiences with love and release the energy flow. So if you are at a position to do this, if there was some kind of, even as an example of my father passing away, that was a very painful thing, and you feel a little bit constricted. But if I revisit that and I stay in the grief of it and the heaviness of it, and I cry, which I still can do, I cry still, I'm still really relatively new. But when I can look at it through love, and I can see the bigger picture and the gratitude that he lived a long, healthy life, and I can release the emotion around that and just focus on the love of the experience, it helps build this 9th chakra. So our tool for transformation is a plea for love. This is so profound and yet so simple. And I really highly encourage that you give this one a go, because all of us have some level of shame, unworthiness, regret, or pain in our past. So this technique supports releasing these emotional pains associated with either guilt, unworthiness, or shame. All of these emotions, they increase chronic pain and they prevent us from healing. It's that self-flagellation that we keep doing. We beat ourselves up all of the time, and we've got to stop doing that in order to move forward. Now, as an example, the first step is that you think of the most loving, compassionate, nurturing individual in your world. Now, who would that be? It may be your grandmother, it may be a mentor, it may be an older sister, a best friend, and it also could be Jesus or Mother Mary or Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is the goddess of compassion. So choose one of those individuals as a representation of unconditional love. The next step is choose something to symbolize this individual. Now, I'm not encouraging if it's, say, your grandmother and she's passed away, or even if she's nearby, I'm not encouraging you to go to that individual, but we're using something as a proxy of that individual, because we're really releasing everything that's within us. And maybe even if you love your grandmother and you know she wouldn't judge you, you wouldn't reveal yourself as much under the terms if you were speaking to her. So choose some kind of proxy to symbolize that individual. Now, I encourage that you use something that's bigger than you. So as an example, a large tree, a statue, or a boulder, backyard pond, or even a mountain, standing up on a mountain, using your direction of that individual as the proxy. Now stand and sit in front of this proxy and pour out every reason on this planet why you are unworthy of love. All of the guilt, all of the shame, all of the bad deeds, everything that you you personally see yourself unworthy of love and unworthy of healing. It's full confession time. And I encourage that you say it out loud. So do it in a place where you can do so, even if it has to be in your home and you use a large wall. But this wall is the symbolic representation of Mother Mary, as an example. And then say out loud everything that you need to get everything out until you are finished. Keep going. All right, then the next step is, once you have purged all of these negative emotions, and it may drain you, it's amazing how much energy that takes to do that, but do this anyway. Take a deep cleansing breath and close your eyes. We are now allowing forgiveness to flow through your body. Now, it's important to recognize we're not asking that proxy or that individual to forgive us, but rather allowing them to hold the space for you as you forgive yourself. Because we don't need forgiveness for anybody else. Chances are they didn't know 99% of what you're even thinking is unworthy of love. It's self-forgiveness that we're looking for. And genuinely listen for the messages of love, compassion, and forgiveness. And it will show up if you allow yourself the opportunity. So the things that we have to, the caveat with this is, if you go back to self-condemnation on any level, if you catch yourself saying, yeah, but what about that one time? You need to go back to the beginning of this and do it again. Get everything back out, and you must release all of the emotions related to it. Forgiveness comes from a deep level of compassion, and commit to letting the past go and receive the compassion that will allow your healing to take place. Know that any past deed that is holding you back never warrants imprisoning self from healing. Healing is necessary. And if you die and leave this planet, I promise all of those past deeds are going to be left in your field, and you're going to have to work on those at some point until you own the level of forgiveness and change the behavior.
And it's easier to work on these in this life.
Yeah.
It's harder to do it in the next.
This one's yours.
So peppermint and wild sage, these are the
Wild
essential
orange.
oils. Wild orange, excuse me. You can diffuse it, apply it under your nose, base of spine. You can put a couple of drops and rub it in your hands and just kind of smell it. It actually energizes you, gives you more energy. Peppermint helps with mental clarity and chronic fatigue, nerve damage, autism, memory issues, nausea, paralysis. Wild orange is really good for depression, grief. It's very energizing, and it helps with addiction withdrawal. So if you're withdrawing for something, put some wild orange on you. It's good for stress, anxiety, chronic fatigue, and it improves your productivity.
Go ahead.
So in review, magic is using the universal laws of creation. And when you're creating magic, not only in your life, but in all the people around you, through discipline and your intention. Understanding our patterns supports making changes to heal, and healing takes forgiveness, rewiring the mind, and being present in the body.
So I apologize. This is not working on the internet, and it's not pulling up. So I hope I wasn't too distracting. I can see that there's questions. I can see that there's comments. We've tried to get this to pull up, and for some reason that one keeps shutting down, and I don't know how to do it on here.
Yeah, well, it's, we can go out of this.
So you'll just bear with us
questions.
and see if we can answer any kind of the questions, and then is to recognize that changing, right here is your chat.
Oh, we got a lot on the chat, so let's make it big.
Yeah, wow, okay. Okay, deliberate with your intent. Well, okay, I'm gonna go up. I'm kind of breaking every rule here but I can see that.
Put it up here,
Yeah.
and then start hitting it.
No, here, I'll let you do that.
Okay. Okay, that's the top.
Okay, artifact is absolute best way to describe it. Okay, fantastic. Okay, I love the conditioned response, creating reality. I'm also observing the more positive. Everybody's being super kind, thank you. Always giving us practical solutions. Great way to describe. Okay, deliberate with my intentions, raising my emotional frequency. I've begun singing when I'm doing mundane tasks as a remodel of my home. Oh, these are fantastic, fantastic. I caught myself getting frustrated, letting feelings exhausted and grumbling. When is this going to end? I would definitely say it's great that you're lifting your energy to do these things when you're doing this. But there's also releasing negative energy. So I would suggest going back to tapping and doing some write and burn, any of those kind of tasks that can help release the negative emotions, because as you're doing this remodel, that's a lot of heaviness. And I know the process that you personally are in, you're taking on a huge task and there's a lot of responsibility. So I'd focus on that. Okay, so I gave up the quantum and began seeing while I paint. Okay, okay, great. Okay, is there a more physical pain due to emotion? Is all or most physical pain due to emotional deficiency? Some. Last week we talked about the brain is sending misfiring. So when we in a dysregulated state, we tend to misfire and send unhealthy signals. Go back to last week because we talk about pain and the emotional. And so emotional deficiency for sure is a potential, but physical pain actually tends to be with a dysregulated brain more often. Okay, where can we buy the essential oils again? The essential oils we have at our office. You can contact our office for any of those. Yeah. Any oil that you get, please make sure you're not using any synthetic or any fragrance. Stay away from fragrances. Those are very synthetic and often diluted. So
all the ones we bought for our store are
organic and healthy.
Organic, yeah. Healthy essential oils.
Okay, I think, all right. Okay, and by the way, we talked about, I've been a little distracted on this one because I wanted this to work. I could see a lot of comments coming in, but I couldn't get this internet to work. Wild orange and peppermint are my two favorite to travel with, to start any task with, or when a lot of times we'll do it right before we start this class, because that combination is very energy enhancing and it's really good for nerve pain. So that's if those two, put a couple of drops in the palm of your hand and rub them, put a cup over the mouth and then just rub it down the back of the neck or any area where you have a little bit of constriction. Those are my favorite. So I hope we got them all. Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you for your patience. Mm-hmm. And I was more distracting today than any time, wasn't I?
Yeah. Well, at least we can laugh about it. We're moving along, believe it or not. We've been releasing emotions, probably as much of any as you, if not more.
Yeah.
It's been bringing stuff up for me and Vicki. And believe it or not, we have been working on getting our emotions better and higher.
Because we can do hard things.
Because we can do hard things.
All right, let's do this blessing.
So we're going to do a blessing for changing. Now, next week, we're going to be changing our emotional mindset. This week, we're going to bless you to be able to create magic in your life and create new thought forms, new things around you. Believe it or not, as you raise your vibration, it creates better things around you. And you'll attract more positive people, more positive things. That's where the magic comes from.
That's right.
In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, and by virtue of the great divine director, the Holy Spirit of God, who commanded me to give blessings to all the humans on and off planet Earth, we give you all a blessing for your behalf. We bless you that all the emotions that you are holding within your body, we bless you that you'll be able to remove those that are no longer serving you, that you'll use the techniques we've been teaching you and remove them from your body and bring in happiness, bring in joy, bring in dancing, bring in singing, bring in things that bring happiness to you, because happiness will make your life much better and even help heal your pancreas. We bless you that your organs, your systems, your glands will function perfectly. We bless you that you'll come out of fight or flight, come into repair and rejuvenate with your parasympathetic nervous system. We bless you that you'll schedule your sleep properly and that you'll get good sleep at night. We bless you that your energy will increase, that your vitality will increase as you eat better, as you bring that energy back from the emotions that aren't serving you. We bless you with these things in the name of Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus the Christ, Saint Germain, Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, all the ascended beings of light and love, the angels, the archangels, and the beings of the elements. And we ask that you play with these beings and be talking to them and bring them into your life, because they are the highest vibrating beings and they've learned how to control their negative emotions. And by attaching to them, you will create the energy to get rid of all your negative emotions and bring love and life and vitality back to your body. In the name of Jesus the Christ, so be it, so it is.
Fantastic.
God bless you all. Thank you for being
We
here.
only have 3 more weeks to go. So changing our emotional mindset, and we will see you next week. You can read on that. Bye-bye.